Welcome to Subway Sports Talk.
Stand, clear of the closing doors, please.
All right, here we go. Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into SST on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and YouTube. Joining me today, Cody, no. Mr. Cody, oh. Connor, to talk some hoops, to talk some Mets, to talk some Yankees. Cody, it's been a whole minute. What were you on vacation at the White Lotus or something? What were you up to?
Yeah, I was in Thailand, Pete.
You mean Taiwan?
Yeah, that place as well. Walker. I'm caught up like you are. And it was one of those, we got a Sunday show, I feel like, back that like the masses were watching and waiting on. And that is few and far between with the way streaming and the way that, shows are put out there now. So it was kind of cool to like wait a week and watch a show and see reactions on Twitter and all that. And I was all the way caught up, and no, I wasn't there, but I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall on any of those 3 vacations.
Yeah, for real. And I'm glad that you kind of took an angle that you just did there, because to me, with all the complaints that have been happening with the show, which, you and I are on Twitter, so I'm sure you've seen a lot of the stuff that I've seen. People are not thrilled with season 3 of White Lotus, and this will be spoiler free for a few minutes here. And I'll give a spoiler warning before we get into anything, if we actually do get into anything specific. But people were disappointed with this season. I just am so thrilled to have a show like you just described. Sunday night, week to week, let's talk about it. You got coworkers tapped in. What's your theory? What's my theory? Let's BS and have some fun. And I love that aspect of any show. I'm a big week to week guy. If I could watch a show week to week, I will. I find it much easier to keep up to it. Sometimes it's daunting. You got like a 5-season show and you're like, damn, bro, everyone's talking about this show right now, and I haven't watched any. What am I supposed to do? Watch 40 episodes right now? It's daunting. So when you have a show like this, it has the zeitgeist. You can pick nits. I'll pick a nit, but it's a great time every Sunday night. I'm happy to be watching it, and even if I pick a nit or two, I had a great time, and it's another great season of television, Cody.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was its best season. I mean, there's been 3. No. I would say it's probably my least favorite, but it doesn't mean that I didn't like the season. I really still enjoyed it. There were like parts where middle of the season, and without spoiling anything, but middle of it, about 4 or 5 episodes in, the plot started to build and build and build. And then like 6 and 7 were kind of like, what the hell? Like that's all they did with them. And it felt like a little bit of a letdown. And then I did feel like the finale did tie it together and kind of go back to them. And it at least made sense why episodes 6 and 7 were what they were, it leading into season finale, where it kind of went back to those plots and it made some more sense. And so it wasn't my favorite season, but I still liked it. I still enjoyed it. I was still waiting and eager to see it going into each Sunday. And when you're waiting and eager to see a show, it at least did something to you on some type of level.
Yeah, it's captured your interest enough for you to want to know what's going to happen. It builds that tension really well. Like, I think edging is the right word to use with this show, right? For multitude of reasons, I guess. Obviously, probably the least horny season of all 3. If you're being honest,
crazy.
Actually, no, that's not true. It's the second most horny season, because season 2 was literally like, so Mike White, the creator of the show, has like a main theme of each one. The first one was like the money, riches, and stuff like that. And like the riches in your family. And then 2 was literally about sex. So the second season was easily the most horny, but season 3 for many reasons was up there. So, but I almost lost my train of thought there. What was I even saying right there? What was I talking about?
How this one was somehow less horny than the others, but I don't know.
I don't know.
It was up there. I mean,
I will regroup.
Alyssa and I joked when the brother and sister were talking in episode 7, she's like, is he going to try to bang her too? And I'm like, haha. And then he said something and I was like, oh my God, he's really going to try to do it. Like, it was crazy how much like was going on. And then in that last episode, Saxon's like, dude, like you can worship me, but dude, don't worship me. Like, yeah. And it was so funny, so well put. But
So
yeah,
there's your spoiler warning, right, by the way, because now if somebody didn't see the whole season yet and they just heard he tried to bang his sister too, they're gonna be like, "Hold on, what?"
that was an episode behind too. I didn't
No,
spoil
of
the
course,
finale,
of
and to
course.
be
I'm saying like for
honest,
the whole show, but you're all good. So I'm saying
yeah,
spoiler warning right now. I will
it's
just
out
say
there.
about White Lotus. So if you haven't seen the finale yet, I am just going to tell you skip forward about a minute and a half right now, and we'll be on to sports. I'm just going to say this. I do think people being disappointed with this season a little bit has to do with the amnesia you have from when you watch season 1 and season 2. Because in season 1 and season 2, there were plenty of loose ends hanging off at the end. There were plenty of people where you're saying, what is that person going to do after this vacation's over? What happened to that family? And that happened again here, where they get back on the boat and they're going back in, and you're like, the Ratliffs, what's going on? And then that's happened with other families and other people in the show before, right? So it's not abnormal, but we've always felt that little bit of dread being like, so the Ratliffs are just getting back on the boat. The fancy cougars, the three ladies, like they're a little traumatized. They just saw a freaking murder, multiple of them, and they're just like back on the boat, like 2 minutes. What's going on here, right? So I do think there's a little amnesia with people's complaints. I think there's a formula now that we expect, which is why this season was a little bit more angsty to finally figure out what the hell happened.
I think it's just chaos is really what the show is about. It's about all these different backgrounds in this one spot, and they're supposed to be getaways, but other people are going for all different reasons, and then that's how it all comes together. They develop their characters also so quickly. Like, you learn about each group, each family, each person so quickly. Like, you already feel like you know them one episode in. And then by the end, it usually has, like you said, even Belinda's driving away on the boat with her son. Like, her son just witnessed a murder, but they also negotiated. Sorry, guys, but they negotiated $5 million, and it's like that. It just hit the account. Like, I could only imagine. I'd be wiping my tears with a couple 20s, hundreds. I wouldn't mind driving away with that money either. So I was cool with the season.
Can I be rich for 5 fucking minutes?
Like, everyone was just ready to, and they're all like, all the reactions are like, oh, I can't believe she gave up her morals for this and that. It's like, I'm sorry, but you have all your morals, but when $5 million is pushed in front of your face just to not say anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck giving that up and saying, nah, I'm good. You'd be thinking about it for the rest of your life.
I think another thing that people struggle with when they complain about this season is, like, you do look for the redeeming qualities in the characters, and spoilers are over now. Basically, this is more general. You look for the redeeming quality in the characters, but most of them don't have it truly. Like, there's inklings of redeemability. There's like a little hope for somebody to turn the corner, but most of the characters in most of the seasons have always reverted back to the worst of themselves, which is kind of the whole point of the show. It's to be a picture into the lives of these typically ultra wealthy people, successful people, and frankly, like crappy people who are either trying to scheme their way in, or scheme their way to stay above, or scheme someone else out. That is literally the entire point of the show. So when you fall in love with a character and they do something shitty, that's more likely than not in this show. And I'll leave it at that. Any last words on White Lotus?
No, but Walton Goggins, his vice principals with Danny McBride, moves on to Righteous Gemstones with McBride, Uncle Baby Billy there. He had his own show, The Unicorn. He does this. He's been on a real run the last 5 or so years. So just a shout out, because I'm a big fan.
Have you watched Community, Cody?
No, I didn't watch it.
Epic Walton Goggins cameo in that show, where he comes in for literally one episode to do a very specific job for one episode and one episode only. And it was my intro to Goggins, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely epic. So if you ever watch Community, you'll have an eye out for Walton Goggins, and you'll be very, very excited when you see him pop on the screen. All right, let's get to sports. Cody O'Connor, P. Kennedy, right here on Subway Sports Talk. It's time to talk about a little bit of NBA, because the Mets are currently in the bottom of the 7th with a 1-0 lead. So Cody and I are both keeping an eye on that game, waiting for that to become final before we pop into our baseball conversation. But Cody, I want to start off with the New York Knicks. We are going to get to some All-NBA prediction / conversation in a moment. But with the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson makes his return on Sunday. He plays decently well, especially well in the fourth quarter, pretty quiet before that. But there was a lot that happened with this team while Jalen Brunson was out. He missed 15 games. OG Anunoby being the big number one reason to feel good about the Knicks with Jalen Brunson out. So, Cody, I just want to ask you this simply. Has anything changed in Jalen Brunson's absence from your eyes, especially now that he's back with 5 games to ramp up for the playoffs?
The biggest one, and I don't know if it's directly related to Brunson going down and him feeling like he needs to up his game, carry the workload more, but to me it's more that he just looks physically better and healthier and more active, and it's OG Anunoby. It's not even all that close. I mean, Josh Hart kind of gives you almost a similar performance, even if it looks different, but he gives you a similar impact on the game. Mikal Bridges has been a little bit better, but still just a little too inconsistent for me, especially in those big games where I want to see him take more shots. Cat has been good, but OG has really upped at a whole different level, and it's on both sides, and it's so noticeable because it's just a bounce in his step and aggressiveness that he's playing with that didn't turn off last night just because Brunson was back. And considering how much I've been begging for Mikal Bridges to step up, it's almost like OG was the forgotten one in that. And OG can absolutely do this and be this guy. And if he continues to be this, that much more pressure is off Mikal Bridges. And the way I see it, you're looking for 3 out of 4 guys in a regular playoff game with Cat, Brunson, Mikal, and OG. If you can hit on 3 out of 4 of those guys with 1 to 2 of those others, all right, we're talking nightly, every game, compete against the best in the East, which is what you've been waiting for and hoping to see. But he's the one that he's stepped up in a way, Pete, that you knew he was capable of. But again, it was almost like he was the forgotten one in all this. And he's been huge for them during this stretch without Brunson.
So I'm going to play a quick game with you here, Cody, on that front. I'm going to play fair or unfair. Very simple, right? I tell you something, you tell me if it's fair or unfair. Kevin O'Connor asked that question, what has been the biggest thing that you learned in Jalen Brunson's absence? My response to him on Twitter was, OG Anunoby is the scorer we thought Mikal Bridges was going to be. Is that fair or unfair?
That's what I was looking for in Mikal Bridges. So, yeah, I think that's fair. Him putting up 20 to 25 nightly is what you thought you were getting when you traded for Mikal Bridges. And not to say you're not getting it, but you haven't seen it consistently.
Fair or unfair? OG Anunoby will keep up not necessarily the same total numbers because of volume, but OG Anunoby will keep up the same energy and aggression and success in the playoffs.
It's fair, it's a necessity, and it's a hope and a wishful thinking because you've seen both sides of it. And, you know, with OG, you always play the health concern. So long as he could stay healthy, he can do this. He can be this. They need him to be this.
So you have decent faith here that this OG Anunoby, which I do agree with, I didn't even respond to you before because you said it so perfectly. I agree. This physicality that he's playing with, this energy he has, the bounce in his step is the best and most athletic I've seen him look in a Knicks uniform. So I'll put that out there that I fully agree with you. But you think that that is going to transfer over well with a little bit of a less of a role, and he's going to be able to still be the shot maker he's been, the driver he's been, and keep up some of the defensive intensity?
It's always so hard to just predict that, but I can tell you that they need that. And I do think he can be that. Yeah, I think his aggressiveness has unlocked something in them. And I think it's clear, and it has to be clear, like, oh my goodness, look what this team looks like when I play this way. So with or without Brunson, will he have the ball as much? No. Will he shoot 25 times? No. But can he be effective and efficient? I believe he can be. I think he could still pick his spots.
Yeah, and I think I agree. And listen, when I made that point on Twitter, I mean, one person replied to me and was like, you know, that's not right to Bridges, like F out of here. He's still making shots, whatever. And I'm like, dude, listen, that was more about OG than it was about Mikal. Mikal has been very good since Brunson's been out, but he hasn't been consistently very good. He's just been very good more sporadically. And I think if we were all betting men, which we are, we were ready to put our money on Mikal Bridges every night to score 20. We were ready to put our hopes in Mikal being that secondary playmaker, that guy who you can give the ball to on the wing and say, go get a bucket. And he has been that guy to an extent. But OG Anunoby at this point right now has been at a different level of that. Listen to his last games, Cody. 32 points, 24, 23, 27, 28, 31, 28, 35, 23, 25. And then he had a 14-point game before that. So we're talking a 10-game stretch here Absolute dog, upper 20s, low 30s, mid 30s every single night. Like, did you even think he had this in him for a short amount of time?
Those numbers, no. And I've been watching him. Obviously he was my answer here, and that still surprised me to see and hear that type of volume scoring. And so I want to ask you this question and put it this way.
Yeah.
Is this happening? Do you think maybe it was ignited because of Brunson coming out? Is it just, do you think that he is healthier, or was there something inside him or consciously, or maybe coaching that said, hey, you can be the guy when Brunson's down. Like, we need someone to step up. Why not you? Is it a combination of these things? What do you think?
It has to be a combination. I think OG Anunoby is a lot more prideful and competitive than he leads on. He seems like this quirky character who's kind of always making memes by accident, just being his genuine self. But he is, I think, very prideful and competitive. I think he's always wanted to be this type of scorer. It obviously goes to show why he wanted to be paid the way he was paid, right? He wasn't taking the Brunson pay cut. He's not a guy who knew he can get another max deal down the road like Jalen Brunson could. He's not a guy like Josh Hart necessarily, who carved out this niche over time. Like OG Anunoby came into this league as a starter, has been a starter, never hasn't been, always looked at as a top tier defender, and always wanted to be this high level scorer. So I think it was in him all along, but I have to give some credence to that part of the athleticism that he's showing. He's always been a guy who dunks a lot, but the amount of physical, just explosive dunks with speed, I've never seen him do this before. I've said it on this podcast how many times, Cody? Every time he goes up for a dunk, every time he goes up for a rebound, I'm scared. I don't know how he's going to land. He lands weird and falls down on purpose, seemingly to like protect his knees, it looks like sometimes. And now he is just driving through people's chests. He is attacking the basket. He is pulling out dribble moves that we haven't seen. So it has to be a mixture. And I'm hoping that somebody, whether it's Tom Thibodeau or even Rick Brunson, who I think is a little more vocal than we realize sometimes on that sideline, maybe it was Mikal and Josh Hart who were like, dude, go get yours, right? Maybe it was PJ Tucker, right? We heard about PJ Tucker when he first came in with the 10-day saying to Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart, shoot that bitch. Maybe he's telling OG Anunoby to shoot that bitch because that's what he's been doing. He's shooting the best basketball of his life. He is driving better than he ever has, at least as a Knick. Can't speak for his entirety of the Toronto career, but this is a different level beast. And I think he has asserted himself as if Brunson's 1A and Cat's 1B, or maybe it's just 1-2, I think he's asserted himself as that next guy after those two. And I think that's clear to say now.
Yeah, and again, it just takes a load off of what Mikal Bridges has to be. But I hope that doesn't take away from Mikal Bridges being aggressive.
Correct.
Because they still need him to look to do his and get his and score and be the 3-level scorer that he is. So I hope him seeing OG doing this, and not to say it will, but just a level of thought. And it's funny because I think of a comparison, Pete, and it's not even almost not relevant, but I'm going to do it anyway because I watched the Devils play. And they lost Jack Hughes about a month ago, similar timeline. He's their Brunson. Okay. Timo Meier is a guy who is almost similar to OG in some ways. And he's this guy that has been pretty much non-existent sometimes with Jack in the lineup. Jack's gone. All of a sudden, you see Timo Meier, this guy that they extended to 2 years ago, that they traded for and was a big piece. And I see him all of the time now, but I'm like, where was this when Jack was on the ice? But you don't wonder that same thing, I don't think, with OG. I think there's a part of it that is he's just healthy right now and really feeling good. And that has translated to the Knicks playing winning basketball, and I think buying some confidence back in the fans.
So now with the confidence back in the fans a little bit here, what's the calculus on their playoff outlook? So as we sit here today, they are most likely going to be the 3. We did mention before we started recording, technically, if they lose out and the Pacers win out, they could drop to 4. That seems unlikely, but they do have Boston and Cleveland coming up on the schedule. Who knows how locked in those two teams are in their final games of the season, because they're locked into 1 and 2. They're most likely playing either Milwaukee or Detroit, as it seems right now. What's the confidence for you, not as a Knicks fan, but as a Knicks frequent watcher, going into this playoffs now versus maybe 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's funny. Like my stands is similar as it's been throughout the year, but it's not to say like my confidence hasn't wavered up and down. And
Mm.
there were points where it got like, oh crap, like, all right, I've really tried to stick true to this and stay on board with this, but it's getting uglier and uglier. And now it feels like it's back to where I thought it was initially, which is they really have a chance, a puncher's chance, because of what I've said all year. And now all of a sudden it's a different reason almost. My reason has been, hey, it's five guys. Their closing lineup makes a ton of sense. Even their sixth, and when the bench, gets shortened in the playoffs, they only need 8 or 9 guys. They have those 8 or 9 guys in my eyes, and it's always been that. And you haven't gotten to see it all year together and healthy.
Mm.
And Sunday, yesterday, against Phoenix was really the first time all year, right? That it's like they actually have their full complement. And granted, they played Phoenix. Phoenix is without Durant. It's a very, very one game sample size against a defense that stinks, quite frankly.
Mm.
But the point is, you're going to get to see it for at least another couple games. And that can hopefully instill more of the confidence. Hopefully they can gel together quickly like they need to. It's not completely brand new. So my confidence in them being able to win has probably increased a little bit because of what OG has done, even though it hasn't changed as the outlook has throughout the year, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. And I think I'm in the same boat as you right now, generally speaking, because I've never really felt like they wouldn't get past the first round. I know there was points in time where some people were very adamant, hey, Detroit's going to be really tough. I could see Detroit beating the Knicks. Obviously you never want to see Giannis in a playoff series. I think that's going to still be hard, even if the rest of the Bucks are kind of a mess right now. But I feel very confident about the first round. And I obviously don't feel confident they're going to win the second round because they're going to be underdogs. Let's be real. I think with all the positivity that we've talked about so far on this podcast, you have to keep it a buck too. They're going to be underdogs in round two. Unless somehow, some way, there's a major upset somewhere or someone goes down with a major injury, they're underdogs. That's okay, right? You're not expected to be favored on Boston Celtics right now. And guess what? That's something you're going to have to do. Typically, every team that makes that leap beats someone they're not supposed to beat at some point, right? Or at least a team that they're even with. They go ahead and beat that team. The Knicks haven't really done that yet. You can argue about Cleveland a few years back when they beat them. I think they were technically underdogs in that series, but different time for that team. Obviously, look at them now, and a different Knicks team is completely as well. So you can't take too much credence in that. This team's a minimum second round team. And obviously, I do believe further or stronger now that they can at least hang around with the Celtics than I did, 2 weeks ago.
Can I just say, even though I am confident they get past, I don't think Detroit is going to be an easy series. And I think it's the type of series that you kind of grind through. Like they're a tough, hard-nosed team that plays with tons of energy. I don't think that they're going to be able to close out games well, which is why I ultimately would have the Knicks. But I think they'll be in a lot of these. I think they'll frustrate the Knicks. There'll probably be a game or two where they go off from 3. Like I could see this being a 6-game series, even 7. I think more likely 6. But I just don't think it's some. I kind of look at Houston on the other side as somewhat similar. Like it's just a team that you play in the playoffs and you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that takes a toll on them going into a series. They're already going to be, as you pointed out, underdogs. And like, it's just that much more of an uphill climb. So I mentioned the Pacers before. You and Pat both said, no, I'd rather play Detroit over the Pacers. I get that. Same. I am assuming you're the same with the Bucks though, right? Like, is Detroit who you would want to play if you had your choice? You just because you don't want to see Giannis? Yeah, right.
It's a tough question, I'll tell you, because like to say you'd rather play Giannis is objectively insane. It's insane to say that. He is the best player in that series. And there's not a lot of teams that you're going to say that against the New York Knicks. And maybe that's a weird thing for Knicks fans to believe right now. But even in the Cavs series, I think Brunson is the best player, right? Mitchell might have a little bit more efficiency this year or whatever, but Brunson's had the best year. I think of the Boston series, you obviously say Tatum is better, but Jalen Brunson's not that far off. In the Eastern Conference, the only players that are absolutely without a doubt better than Jalen Brunson are Giannis and Jason Tatum. So to say you want to play Giannis is nuts. However, that team's a mess, Cody. They
Yep.
they kind of stink.
Yeah.
And Dame Lillard's out right now, and Brook Lopez is old as hell, and their whole team is old as hell. So I think I would lean saying you got to play. You'd rather play Milwaukee. However, and I love Detroit. You've heard me on this podcast trying to pitch the Cade Cunningham truth for years now, even before it was true. They're still a year away. They're still a move away because they did a couple veteran moves that are nice. But now in the playoffs, you're going to look at Tim Hardaway and Malik Beasley, who have been in a lot of playoff series and haven't made major impacts. Who haven't been that special. Tobias Harris, who is famous for being front and center in playoff series, right? He never disappears. But no, the way the Pistons play, it will be an absolute brawl fest dogfight. And I don't mean that because they're going to actually fight, but they might. So I think, yes, I would rather play the Bucks, even though it's objectively insane to say that you want to see Giannis in a playoff series because he will average 40.
Yeah, almost no matter. You almost be like, all right, we'll be okay with that as long as it's not all at the rim. Make him go to the free throw line a little bit and trust that the rest of them aren't going to be it. And even if Dame comes back, like he's come back from a blood clot and it's just messy and
things. Yeah,
yep, really tough to say. Like they brought in Kyle Kuzma mid-year. I don't think it's been like amazing. Not that Chris Middleton was awesome for them either, but you're right. They don't make sense. They're much softer defensively. The Knicks would get probably whatever they wanted on offense. And I don't think it's as much of a physical grind, even though there's a potential that you're saying, hey, to play the Bucks might help us in the long run, but we'd still have to get through the Bucks, who might be a tougher one-round series because of Giannis than Detroit. That's the kind of the question in my eyes.
And I'll also add the Knicks do play well against Milwaukee. Like they've just done really well against them with Giannis, without Giannis, with Brunson, without Brunson. They've just really played well against Milwaukee. For whatever reason, the matchup makes sense for them. I think, pulling Brook Lopez away from the rim with the shooters the Knicks have now with Karl-Anthony Towns is really good. I think Mitchell Robinson really affects Giannis as good as about anybody in the league around the rim. So that's a big win. So it's the best objective decision, even though it just feels crazy. But Cody, I want to ask you two quick questions, fair or unfair, again on the New York Knicks, and then we'll do a quick exercise on the All-NBA team. We'll do some more of that next week as we do a playoff preview and maybe some award stuff as well. Fair or unfair? DeLon Wright will make an impact for the Knicks in the playoffs.
Unfair. I just think that the rotation's too short, and outside of an injury, especially who Tibbs is, his guys that he could trust go to Landry, Shamet, and Campaign, and I think it probably stops there, even though DeLon Wright's had a nice little stretch.
Fair or unfair? Actually, let me say this. I do agree with you. I think there's a DeLon Wright game. I'll say that. There's a game where DeLon Wright's in and you're like, all right, he knows what to do. He's going to organize. He's going to help out. And he'll have one game where he's impactful. He's not going to play that much. I agree. I'm not even bringing up Kolek because he's not going to play. That's okay. He's a rookie. He's not going to play. Most rookies don't impact the playoffs. Fair or unfair, Cody? Mitchell Robinson will end up starting at some point in this playoffs.
Oh, fair. In the playoffs entirely, yeah, I think that you could see it happen. Depending on, I guess they're going to get Boston if they get through. I could see a game, a switch, a rotational change, something where they're like, hey, we got to do something. Let's go with two bigs. Let's try this out. I think it's fair to say that over under half a game, give me Mitch plus 125 to start one playoff game this season.
I love it. I think he's going to be, or he's going to remind Knicks fans why we missed him so much throughout this season at some point in this playoff, because we've seen what he can do in a playoff series where he offensively rebounds the ball so well that he can actually flip games with that skill. So I can see that as well. Karl-Anthony Towns, fair or unfair, fouls out in multiple games this playoffs.
Fair. Over under 1.5. Yeah, Cat. He feels like he gets a really bad whistle. I don't know if they're like the way he complains can kind of seem annoying, and maybe
God.
the refs are like throws his hands up, and it's like so. I don't know. It's like vivid. Like you could see it in your head when you see Cat foul somebody or get a foul call on him. So I'm gonna say he fouls out of 2 games.
All right. I think that's all we got for the Knicks right now. Anything else for the Knicks before we move on?
No, I like that.
Yeah,
I wonder.
I'm
I'm so curious to see what a playoff series with Detroit might look like.
It would, as an NBA fan, that is what I hope happens. But as a Knicks fan, I am pulling slightly towards Milwaukee. However, I'm a fan who says, "Bring on the smoke. We got to beat anyone we play." The
Mm-hmm.
Knicks are a team now that is good enough in the first round that you should beat anyone you play. You're a
Yeah,
top
but
3 seed. God damn it, you
I
beat anyone.
agree. But like, I'm a Thunder fan rooting for the number 1 seed in the West, and I'm looking at the Western Conference like, oh, I'd really rather not play Minnesota or the Clippers. Like, that's not a great reward for winning 68 games. So,
Yeah, you'd
like,
rather
it
not.
doesn't
But guess
right.
what? You might
If you
have to.
well, you know what? If you play them, then the answer will be yes, you should beat them. But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean I don't want to play the easiest path because you don't get extra credit for playing the good teams.
Correct. You might get made fun of like the Celtics did last year, but like who cares? They're the champs.
Guess what? They win back-to-back, and not a single person will bring up their path from last year. I guarantee it.
Until like Jason Tatum gets mentioned like to be a top 10 all-time player, and then everyone starts pulling him down again. But besides the point, I'll just say this last thoughts on the New York Knicks. I think Knicks fans are joining the bandwagon back again. And when I say that, I don't mean bandwagon in a negative connotation. Knicks fans have been on a roller coaster this year because there was all this expectation and they had a really slow start. And then all of a sudden they play amazing basketball for a long time and we're feeling amazing. And then you lose to all the top teams over and over and over again. And Knicks fans are like, what is this team? I don't trust them. My faith is gone. I'm not having fun like I did last year. Because guess what? Welcome to the big leagues, baby. The Knicks are now in the echelon of teams that need to make it far in the playoffs to consider a season successful. That's a great thing. And I think once the playoff basketball tips off, Knicks fans will realize where we are and be lucky and happy and excited to watch the best basketball we can watch from our favorite team. So to all the Knicks fans out there who have been teetering on excitement levels throughout this season, have felt like they've given up at different points in time, it doesn't matter. 4 games left. In a week and a half, we're tipping off NBA playoff basketball in Madison Square Garden again. And the energy will be back, and be happy about it. Be excited about it. It's going to be great for at least a little bit of time.
Fire me up. 2 weeks of greatness, and then we go from there.
Let's go. All right, quick All-NBA discussion right here, Cody. You know, we don't need to go super deep. I just want to see where we can get to as far as like an overarching stuff on like players that we think are kind of locks, and then have maybe a quick conversation on some of the teetering points of all NBA-dom. All NBA-dom? Does that make sense?
That.
That
yeah.
makes sense.
That sounds
all right,
cool.
So I'll start off with the first team because I think you can really point to some people and say they're absolute guarantee locks for all NBA first team. So I'm going to start off and simply say SGA and Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, I don't even think it has to stop there. I think there's
Okay,
4 guys
that
are absolute locks, right? If you had Giannis and Tatum, like there's no question those 4.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think the 5th all but secured at this point, like with Brunson going down. No, do you have a different guy than Donovan Mitchell?
I was going to say,
the first
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, that's who I think it should be. I think the winning should be rewarded. And I don't think there's anybody, I don't know, Steph.
So hold on.
Like,
oh, wait.
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought. Because I do think it's fair to say that those 4 that we mentioned, SGA, Jokic, Giannis, and Tatum, are guaranteed for even, say, if Brunson did not get hurt, right? Those are guaranteed for.
No matter what.
The 5th spot is always where the question started. So Jalen Brunson is now back on track to be eligible for awards. There's 4 games left. He's played 62. So if he plays 3 of the last 4, he's eligible for awards. How much are voters going to ding him on that front? I don't know, because I think some voters in the past few weeks are like, well, Brunson's not going to make it, so let's start doing this without him. But he's going to be back, most likely going to be back in the fray for awards voting. So if Mitchell plays the rest of the season, doesn't miss a game, which he might sit one out, who's to say, he'll be at 73 or 74 games. Jalen Brunson will be at 65 or 66 on the dot. Is that enough to make the decision? Or is it just because of that, you're going to go Ty goes to the first place team, and Mitchell's season has been incredible in its own right?
Yeah, it's the timing of Brunson's injury sucks. Like the same amount of time missed in November does not get weighted the same as it does right now. It's just the reality of it. I think it's the truth behind it. because this time of the year you're jockeying for playoff positioning. People are starting to really lock in and watch with a closer eye and figure out what they're going to make their picks for the playoffs and everything. Mitchell has done things in a way that don't always show up statistically. Like not the reason, but a big reason that they have won at the rate they've won 62 games, which is, it's incredible to do. And again, we're talking about a regular season award. So we're just talking about this season in a vacuum. The way that Mitchell's been able to kind of step off the gas at times and let Mobley go to work, Mobley, who's really taken that leap that we've hoped to see, especially at the rim, to let Garland do his thing, to Ty Jerome. Like, the reason I think that these guys have blossomed the way they have is because of what Donovan Mitchell's done. And sometimes less is more. And I think maybe that's the case here, even if he doesn't have the greatest statistical argument, he still has a good one. And then you talk about the winning, you talk about the injury. Like, when it all comes together and adds up, I think I'd have Donovan Mitchell as all but a lock with only 4 games remaining, in my eyes.
All right, so I'll give you the quick case for Jalen Brunson, just because, and I'm not saying that would be my pick right now, but here's the case for Jalen Brunson. If you do look at the advanced metrics, right, which people, especially voters, do look at, right? So before anyone will say, oh, it's freaking bad, who cares what the people look at it, especially when it comes to voting, because guess what? All these national writers aren't watching 82 Knicks games, 82 Cavs games. They're watching a lot of Knicks, a lot of Cavs, but not all of it, okay? Jalen Brunson, even with the missed games, has more win shares this season than Donovan Mitchell. He has more win shares per 48 than Donovan Mitchell. When it comes to a total minutes played, he's only played 35 less minutes than Donovan Mitchell this season. Part of that is because Donovan Mitchell has a coach who, when their team's up by 25, takes out their best players, which makes sense. And Tom Thibodeau does not. And then on the statistical front, per game, we're talking about Jalen Brunson's averages being 26 points, 7.5 assists, 3 rebounds on 49% from the field, 38% from 3. Donovan Mitchell, on the other hand, 24 points per game, 5 assists, 4.5 rebounds on 44% shooting and 37 from 3. So statistically, it's actually not much of an argument. I think Jalen Brunson would be the pick. But overall, narrative, team success, and total games played, obviously that could go to Donovan Mitchell. Did I sway you at all?
No, I just want to try to be consistent, I guess, with my own thinking as well. And I do like to, it's tough with the All-NBA, but I like to reward winning, really. I think he's the best player on a team that has been unbelievable and taken huge strides this year. And the Knicks have been up and down. And, Brunson, you mentioned it too, like, he has the totality in statistics. He's also got a lot of the percentages, which almost can take away this part of the argument. But a ton of times Brunson is playing till the last minute of the game, and a ton of times Donovan Mitchell is seeing fourth quarters or seeing partial fourth quarters. So his minutes get decreased because of that. Like, his time to score just changes. How many times have they won in blowout fashion and he's taken his foot off the gas early? Like, it all comes into play for me. And so I'd still go Donovan Mitchell. And it's funny, like, when you start to argue for the next team, like, Brunson still has a hard time. He's in one of the 3, no questions asked. But the next team, when you start to talk about, some guys that you're going to put him ahead of,
2
it's
versus
not
3
like
is
it's
weird. It's like, it's hard. You can go
those
a lot of different ways.
Those guards are serious, right? I mean, you're talking Ant Edwards and Steph Curry as we start to move on with Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham. Like, as we move on, you've got, 2 spots for those 4 guys. Couldn't you make an argument for just about any of them?
Absolutely. So for the record, I'm also giving Donovan Mitchell the first team bump. Part of it is because I think Donovan Mitchell's defense also picks up whatever he's lacking on the percentage front, and then Ty goes to the team that won 62 games. I mean, when it comes down to it, Ty goes to the team that won 62 games, and it may not be the best way to do all NBA, but it's good enough for me right here. But I will put Jalen Brunson on second team. Because again, if you look at a lot of the statistics, if you look at what he's meant to this team, the clutch performances from Jalen Brunson all year long, he's ranked above every other guard in the conversation when it comes to advanced stats. And obviously on a per game basis, he is right neck and neck with the Steph Currys, with the Cade Cunninghams, with the Anthony Edwards on pure output and percentages. So that, to me, I will go tied to the runner for Jalen Brunson on second round.
And so putting him in is completely okay with me. My question is, who is out then? Ant, Steph, Cade. I would assume Cade's probably third team.
Who's out a second team, or
yeah, like if you have Jalen Brunson, who's your next guard and do you do it that way? Like, do you do two guards, two forwards, and a center?
You don't have to anymore, right? That's not the rule.
Right.
To vote
it's
that
not
way
exactly, yeah.
Not that we even have votes anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I
we
think...
are talking like we're gonna mail in the ballot later on. They're like, hey, what's O'Connor got? Like, who gives a shit?
Who the hell's that? Oh, Kevin O'Connor? No,
yeah.
Cody.
KOC? What's that? His nephew or something?
Yeah, COC. The big COC, as we call him. No, I think I would go for second team. I'd go to Cade Cunningham. What he does with the assist totals that he's accumulated this year, I think supersedes the stuff that Anthony Edwards has done. The amount of actual responsibility that that Cade Cunningham has from an offensive perspective is insane. And this is a team that does not have the talent of Minnesota. It does not have the talent of Golden State, especially since Jimmy Butler has joined forces with them over there. So I'm going to give Cade Cunningham that bump, and I'm not sure yet, as we talk through it, if Ant Edwards or Steph Curry can sneak onto the second team with them. But I do think those would be the locks for guards for third team, if that's the way I go.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff that has Halliburton sneaking into that third team
close,
too.
Man, he's so close.
No, it's not like crazy. You know, he's really, really stepped up. And the other thing with Brunson, like you mentioned, he came back the other night, Sunday night, and didn't play great, didn't shoot great really. But he still was a big part of how that game got to be what it was. Like, he pushed that game from, I think, like 5-7 points, what it was, and he pushed it out of reach. Like, that's what Brunson's done all year. That's winning basketball. That stuff matters so much. He contributes to that all season. So I don't want this to sound in any way as if it's anti-Brunson. It's absolutely not. You're picking, nitpicking, if you will, between these guys. You're really splitting hairs to try to determine it. Steph, I don't know. Can you keep him off? I mean, that team without Jimmy was awful. Like
that's why he's third team for me, frankly.
Right? Like they didn't even make sense sometimes, especially offensively.
And I know it's not his fault, obviously.
No, I'm saying like the fact that they were even afloat is part of, hey, that's some of Steph's brilliance. Like the fact that they were even able to get to the point to trade for Jimmy to then make this run is part of the reason why Steph's in that conversation. He's got to be on one of the three, I think.
Can I name James Harden to get a mention?
Yeah, he definitely could get a mention.
He's been good, man.
No, Kawhi has been out a lot of this year.
Yeah, and James Harden, man, 75 games this year. He's going to end up at 78, 79 games, 22 points, 8.5 assists, 35% from three, still to the free throw line 8 times a game, which is a positive despite what a freaking certain people like to say. Like, that's still a good thing to be able to do.
It's a really good thing.
Despite so Twitter ridiculous. Over the last few weeks, whatever. But yeah, no, I think Harden will get left off on that front. And Steph, I think, solely gets pushed to third team because the team was so mediocre until Jimmy Butler got there. So he gets nicked for that a little bit. All right, let's talk about some of the other positions really quick because we got to get to baseball as the New York Mets win 2-0 and make themselves 7-3, win 5 in a row. Fantastic. We'll get to that in a minute. Is Karl-Anthony Towns a lock for you overall? If so, does he make your second team?
Yeah, I think to me the question is whether he's going to be second or third team. But I do think he's going to make one of these teams. And it's almost, I don't know if it's personal preference. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's close. Like you're probably looking at him, Evan Mobley. I think you've got Alperen Şengün in there. And so
Jaren
Jackson is going to have himself a campaign. He's been really good this year. You could argue that he's been the best player on Memphis. And with the way Ja's been in and out. I don't
think you have to argue it.
Right?
He's the best player on Memphis this year.
Yeah. Like I think
in totality.
And I'd think of playing them in a series, and I'd be more afraid of what he does than what Ja does, even though every eye is going to go to Ja Morant. So Triple J's been that good. Obviously, he does it on both sides of the floor. Evan Mobley, I mean, I think he's going to get robbed of Defensive Player of the Year, quite frankly. I think if Draymond wins it, it's a little bit of a media-based pushing of a narrative more than it is a full seasons of work. And that's what Evan Mobley's done, is a full season's worth. But that's not really the point. The point is Evan Mobley has done it both sides of the floor. He's really, really stepped up. We talked about what their team success has looked like. So you're talking about, again, splitting hairs, but I think I'd have Cat between 2 and 3. And I'd have a hard time arguing him over, I think, Mobley, because almost a similar conversation. So I guess I'm saying Cat third team, but he's got to be on one of the 3. So you're talking about 2 Knicks on the All-NBA teams, man.
That's what we're saying. I mean, and listen, there's a case for Josh Hart. I'm just saying. No, I'm just kidding. There's not really a case for Josh Hart, but like there's a theoretical case on him. If you just looked at the advanced metrics, he is number 11 in the NBA in win shares. But if you look at just win shares, you obviously see Domantas Sabonis up there. You see Jared Allen at 3rd in the NBA in win shares. You see Ivica Zubac at 4th in the NBA in win shares. Win shares do very much favor rebounders generally because of the defensive numbers that basically when you get a defensive rebound, you're ending a possession and it goes to, win shares in some sort of way that makes the centers much easier to rank up in that category there. But Josh Hart obviously has had a great season. He's not all NBA. It's okay. He's been fantastic. If you give me the triple double argument, whatever. He's not there. I digress. Evan Mobley and Cat is a legitimate argument. I'm going to lean towards Cat. I do think you get the offensive side of it just a little bit better to that extent where, Evan Mobley has upped his offensive game a ton, but it's not near the level of Karl-Anthony Towns to me, where Karl-Anthony Towns is probably just as good of a passer as Evan Mobley. Mobley gets a lot of credit for his passing. Karl-Anthony Towns does not. They average the same exact amount of assists on the season. And Cat just doesn't get that love as a passer, even though if you're watching the Knicks night in, night out, you're seeing him make a lot of great plays and he can truly be the offensive engine and has won many games for the Knicks, all year long. But it's a very fair argument. I would not be mad about Mobley getting in over him. And Jaren Jackson, frankly, if we're being honest, Jaren Jackson, Evan Mobley, and Cat, 2 of those guys could share an All-NBA team. Like 2 of them could be on second team, 2 of them could be on third team. So I think that's realistic as well. What about LeBron James, Cody? How does LeBron get into this category? Because I think he'll get votes, and I think he most likely deserves most of them. But I don't know. It's a tough case sometimes with him.
He seemed like he had a rock-solid case, like all the way up until the injury. And then he gets injured, misses time, whatever. There's also speculation, of course, going on. Is he really injured? Does he do this yearly? Yeah. I wouldn't even mind it if he did it yearly. I think it'd just be smart, to be honest.
Man's 40.
Yeah, he's 40 years old. And we're talking about him in the All-NBA again. And for a large part of this year, though, again, kind of somewhat similar. You had some injuries. You had people go down, AD, this and that. He's kind of kept them there. He's had games where he's been the best guy on the floor when he's sharing it with Luka and Austin Reeves. So I wonder if this last 2-3 weeks would it be enough to keep him off? And to be honest, I think he'll be on it anyway. He is LeBron. It would look a lot better with him on it.
He's going to reach 70 games too, just to add that.
And like even KD would have had a case. I don't think he's going to have a case anymore with his injury. Do you think – so I think LeBron will be on it, but I wonder, does that take away from potentially my guy and having a second Thunder player in Jalen Williams? Does he have a case? Did his injury in March impact him negatively enough to keep him off?
If you look at numbers, which you shouldn't in this case, I mean, the argument is super just LeBron heavy. I mean, LeBron averages more points, more rebounds, more assists. So that makes it really difficult to make the case for Jalen Williams. But obviously Jalen Williams is a phenomenal defensive player where LeBron is picking spots at best on defense, right? So that argument would make it very interesting. If you're going to go who gets it over each other, I think you got to go LeBron, man. He's 25, 8 and 8. I mean, no matter how you skin it, no matter how much you can find a clip of him, lagging off on defense or whatever, controller turning off on defense, however you want to skin it, 25, 8 and 8 on probably his best 3-point shooting of his entire career at 38%. I don't think you put him off, man. I think he just makes it no matter what. And he probably gets a bump from the voters who aren't tapped in, who are just like, yeah, no, of course he's on.
He, the funny thing is, like, watching enough, he kind of does match it with your, like, when you watch him, you're like, holy shit, he really is still doing this. Like,
he's still doing it, man.
It's not empty numbers by any stretch. Like, there's big time moments, there's big time numbers, there's moments again. He is the guy controlling, running everything when you're sharing a floor with Luka Doncic, most importantly, and the way Austin Reeves has been playing. Geez, I mean, if the season was just the last 2 months, Austin Reeves would be on one of these All NBA teams. He's been unbelievable. So I would lean LeBron, but you know what I think is that there might be room for both of them, and we'll see. You know, if it's a Halliburton that gets pushed out, is it Jalen Williams that gets pushed out? Is it Triple J that gets pushed out? Is it Şengün, who I think he had his own injury time, so there's going to be one or two mad like there is every year. There's going to be somebody who's like, I cannot believe this, but what they won't do.
Someone's going to say like, how did Jaylen Brown not make it? But he doesn't deserve it this year.
No, he doesn't.
He's shooting 32% from three. His points are a little bit down. He doesn't do a lot of phenomenal playmaking. He's at 4.5 assists, which is actually quite a nice number for him, if we're being completely honest. So maybe I'm pontificating too much on his offensive prowess as a playmaker, but like he's not had a Jaylen Brown level year. Also, he has to play every game to hit 65. He's only at 62 right now. So he might not, frankly, he might not play. I'm sure he's going to want to play to get in that conversation. But if he doesn't make this year, I think that's okay, man. His numbers, the efficiency has just not been amazing for him. And you look up and down that list, we're already at, I think, 10 dudes. And we didn't mention, who did we not mention that's a big candidate here? Luke is not going to get there on games.
No, but hang on, I had it up and just give me one second.
Trae Young, I don't think will be on there, but he is leading the league in assists. He has to be mentioned. Like, you can argue that Norm Powell has been better than Jaylen Brown this year.
I actually think you can mention most of these guys, to be honest.
Darius
At least
Garland.
in some capacity. Yeah, I don't think Garland will make it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But again,
big Garland guy, but I just don't think he's going to make it. With all the guards that we mentioned, like who he's going to be able to get in over, I think is. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be a guy, two maybe that they go out and say, I can't believe he was snubbed. But what none of them will do is put them actually over somebody to take out. And that's really the question. Who would you actually take out?
Yeah. And you know what? The more I look at it here, maybe Jaylen Brown still does make it, because I don't think Tyler Hero is going to make it over him, even though, the numbers are there. Jaylen Brown's a better defender. Are they going to give it to someone like a Jalen Williams?
I think he's probably one of the more, like, again, we're talking this regular season in a vacuum, not what we're projecting forward. Jalen Williams has probably had a better year than Jaylen Brown, to be honest. I think the second fiddle with how much time Chet Holmgren's missed, he's been the premier second best player on a 64 now win team who's going to win 65, 67. And so, and what he's done, he's kind of undervalued defensively. It's understated because he's like the fourth or so best defender on his own team. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he played center for a long stretch of time for them and did it really well when they literally didn't have a center on the roster because of injury. So he's a phenomenal two-way player that doesn't put up a ton of shots and is typically highly efficient. And he's been that again this year. So I think he'll get the nod, and I think the wins will carry it over, and that will probably knock out a Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, so let's I'm going to roll through all these names real quick because we got to get to baseball. Sneaky, we just got to like 50 minutes on this damn podcast somehow.
15.
Time flies when you're having fun. We were doing 15 on basketball.
There was no way.
We did, so to break it down, we did do like 8 on White Lotus, and then like 15 to 18 on the Knicks, and then like 20 on this, so whatever. We're having fun, Cody. It's okay on Subway Sports Talk.
Not going to stop me.
All right, run through this really quick. Please jump in if I forget anyone important here. First team, we're pretty much in lockstep. We got SGA, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and Donovan Mitchell. We're locked in on first team.
Locked. Second
team / third team, we haven't fully decided who's where, but I'm going to name 5 guys, and then we'll name 5 more guys. We got Jalen Brunson. We got Evan Mobley, Karl Anthony Towns, Cade Cunningham, and Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
Are we cool with that as second team?
Yes, for now. Go ahead and name the third team.
Third team, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Jaren Jackson Jr.,
okay,
Jalen Williams,
okay,
and we have one slot left for Jaylen Brown, Alperen Şengün.
Triple J.
I
No, you
just said
said
him.
Triple J.
James Harden, Darius Garland.
You have given Cat out, right? You've already said Cat for second team and Mobley.
I did. Yes.
Okay. Then I think it's Şengün, personally.
You think it's Şengün, not Jaylen Brown?
I would take Şengün over Jaylen Brown. What he's meant to that Rockets team, who is unbelievably athletic, great defensively, at times can struggle offensively, and he is the catalyst, I think, with Jalen Green. But I think a lot runs through Şengün, and he is a highly intelligent, tough guard basketball player. So I go Şengün.
There you have it. It's in. They don't even need to vote. Me and Cody figured it out, kind of.
Don't worry, Bill Simmons. You're good.
Yeah. Zach Lowe? Oh, he doesn't have a vote this year. Never mind.
Oof.
Give him a vote, dude. Just
At least
NBA.
he's back.
NBA, do the right thing. Give him a vote. Give it to him right now. He deserves it. Come on.
Give him a call.
Zach Lowe. He cares more about his votes and takes it as serious as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to Zach Lowe.
Does Kendrick Perkins have a vote?
Probably, dude. Probably. Come on.
Might see a flaw.
If Perk got a vote, even though Perk for some reason loves the Knicks, so shout out Perk.
He loves the Thunder too, actually. He's been riding.
Why.
Like, he always talks highly of them. I'm like, all right, Perk, we're cool.
It's because he knows ball, perhaps. I don't know. Whatever.
Maybe.
All right, Cody O'Connor, Pete Kennedy right here on Subway Sports Talk. We're not done yet. Let's do a few minutes here on baseball. The New York Mets are winners of 5 straight games, Cody. They hit 7-3 across town. Just to put the whole perspective here, I'm not trying to do a comparison just yet, but the Yankees lose on Monday. They're 6-4. Bats slowed down a little bit, obviously, after their historic home run start to the season. But let's start here with the New York Mets, Cody. They win 2-0 against Miami. They've won close. They've won ugly. They've had a few, and I mean few, good offensive games, but they sit here at 7-3, and your vibes are what with the New York Mets?
I think I saw you tweet this, Pete, and I'm sorry to take it from you, but it's just one of those things I saw. I was like, yeah, that pretty much captures it. It hasn't looked great. It's been relatively ugly. The offense has been slow, and they haven't exactly played great complementary baseball, and they really haven't hit with runners in scoring position. And despite that, and yes, they've played now 4 games against Miami, they're 7-3. They're finding ways to win games. The pen's been unbelievable. I'm not expecting them to be like, this is like historic levels. So obviously they're not going to be that. But, I also obviously think that the offense will figure it out. It's not like they look clueless and lost and they can't get guys on. They're frustrating a little bit with the timely hitting. But I feel great about the fact that they're 7-3, considering the oftenness of the lack of offense.
That's perfectly said, Cody. Look at this.
I kind of regurgitated what you said, but yeah, thank you for the compliment.
Well, I'm going to double down on what you just said, because what I said and what you said are similar, but I need to emphasize this one specific part of it. Great teams, not good teams, but great teams find ways to win when they shouldn't. It's what you do across all sports when you watch the Kansas City Chiefs, the Boston Celtics, for many years the New York Yankees, and now the Los Angeles Dodgers. Their offense sucks, they find a way. They give up 7 runs, they score 8. They pick up the loose pieces and make it work. That's what great teams do. When you see this New York Mets team, they haven't instilled a ton of confidence, but there hasn't been a game yet where they were down and out and rolled over. There hasn't been a game yet where they were close and they blew it for no good reason. They are doing what it takes to win. And if you're 7-3 playing your bad version of baseball, that gives me the utmost confidence that when they start hitting, this team's going to look like a juggernaut. And now, obviously, if the offense turns around and starts looking fantastic, there will be a dip in some of these bullpen numbers. They can't keep this up. It's insane what they're doing with the bullpen right now. Some of the starting pitchers will have blow-up starts instead of getting it along. But this offense is scratching the surface at best right now, and they're 7-3. You're seeing positives from Lindor already early in a season. You're seeing what Juan Soto means to a lineup. You're seeing Pete Alonso be a legitimate power threat again. You're even seeing the Nimmos and the Winkers making positive impacts. Vientos, for all the crap he's gotten over these first 10 games, is making some good at-bats here and there. He's coming around. He hasn't put one over the fence yet. That's okay. He will soon. This is the making of a great team, Cody. And I was sitting here saying, oh, they're going to be second or third in the NL East. They're going to be a wild card team. I'm ready to say it. They are legitimately a National League East contender. They are legitimately a National League champion contender. They are. And if we thought that they weren't, we were hedging our bets emotionally. I believe it. Because I see the bones of this roster, this lineup, and now what the pitching staff has put together, and I see the path to 95 wins for this team, whereas I was hoping for 90 before the season started.
Oh, I love it. I will say this, while they are not going to keep up the pace with the pen, I believed coming into the year, and 10 games, 7 games, whatever they are, 10 games in, doesn't exactly mean that we're right about the things we thought coming in. But I did think the pen was a legitimate strength. I thought it was far improved from last year, which at times last year there was like you and I could have gone out and improved the bullpen. But they look much better this year, and they're still waiting on Denel Nunez to come back, who was a major contributor last year. Will he be the same? Time will tell. But it looks like maybe they've got something in Max Kranick. Was it crazy to think that Huascar Braziman, who came over via trade last year, could settle in? He was like a sub-4, sub-3 ERA guy last year when they got him. Like, that wasn't crazy. He's got really good stuff. He just has the control that he has to work on. So, like, they have pieces in that bullpen to keep it going. The starting staff has been okay. And they're okay in the sense that they haven't gotten the Mets out of games. They have not lost a game for the Mets, I don't think, all year. I can't think of one game that the starter has gone out and lost. I don't think they have. But they also need to provide length, because this cannot be sustained. Like, 10 games in, a couple things are happening, things that make you feel good about it, but they need length out of their starters. They need guys to give them 5-6 more consistently, because they cannot keep relying on the bullpen to be perfect for 5 or 6 innings a night. Again, those things are all going to change. The offense is going to get better. That can provide your bullpen some relief in and of itself. Beating the hell out of a team can do that. So that's one thing. The starting staff can start going longer. And also the bullpen is they will regress. There will be games 100%. They'll give up runs. Yeah, right. It's literally, I think they've given up 1 run this year. Maybe it's 3. I don't know. Not a lot. So, but the bones are there, like you said. The pen, I think, is a legitimate strength of this team. And I don't know, Pete, like, again, 10 games doesn't justify what we thought going in, but I was optimistic on this staff because I believe in what Stearns and that pitching lab might be able to do. 10 games in, it looks okay. Yeah. I don't think it's going to turn into a top 5 rotation in baseball. I'm not trying to say that. But are they going to keep them in games? That's what I believe that they could be all year. Yeah, I think they're going to do that. I think the pen is a strength, and the offense will get going.
I thought I was going to sneeze for a second. Wait. Oh, no, we're good. Just for the record, to follow up on what you said right there, we have Jose Butto has given up 1 run, Minter 2, and Danny Young 2.
Oh, well, Danny Young doesn't count. He stinks.
True. That is all the runs that they've given up from the pen. Right now, Max Kranick, 7 innings, no earned runs, only 1 hit, and no walks. You kidding me? Huascar Braziban in 7 1/3, 0 runs, only 3 hits, and 1 walk. And then Edwin Diaz hasn't given up a run yet. Reed Garrett hasn't given up a run yet. And Ryan Stanek hasn't given up a run yet.
Can I just add one quick? The other thing that those guys like Braziban and Butto, they've both given length in their times out. They were giving you an inning and a 2/3. They're giving you 2 innings. Like, that is huge to keep relief off of other guys and not throw them every single day. And if that could be the case, multiple innings from those guys, that's another way to relieve other arms.
And I'll add this because we're going to segue to the Yankees for 10 minutes before we go. With this, with all that we just said about this team and what they've done well and not so well so far, the New York Mets have hit 8 home runs this year. The Yankees hit more than that in 1 game. Okay. So the Mets have not been driving the ball out of the park. SNY had a stat up before the game started today that the Mets are 3rd in the MLB in average exit velo on their hitted balls. So great signs for this offense doing good things, not having great luck just yet, right? Alonso's got 3 dingers. Nimmo's got 2. You got 1 from Marte, Soto, and Torrens. You got no home runs from Lindor. You got nothing from Mark Vientos just yet. No, well, you had the big double triple game from Jesse Winker, but you're not seeing all these guys clicking on all cylinders yet, and they're finding ways to win. On the flip side, and this will be my segue to the New York Yankees here, if you're a Yankee fan and you're pissed they lost 2 in a row, what's going on? Now we can't hit. I thought we were going to be awesome. This is the early part of the season, folks. The Mets haven't hit a lick overall this season so far. Their stats are just not great on that front. The Yankees couldn't stop hitting home runs for like 5 days, right? They were due for a regression on the hitting front, which came a little early here. It'll come back to life. And their pitching, which is supposed to be their strength, hasn't been incredible. These things are going to even out. Now, I did have a belief about the New York Yankees coming into the season that their offense wouldn't be great. And it felt stupid watching the first week of baseball saying that. But they're not going to hit 12 home runs every series. It's just not going to happen. Okay. But their offense is going to be fine and their pitching will get better. So as the Mets balance out their pitching and hitting meet in the middle, the Yankees are going to do the same thing. So I'm not worrying about the Yankees just yet. In fact, I'm pleasantly surprised with the juice you are seeing from this lineup and the balance and respectability that this lineup is seeming to create, Cody.
It does feel different than it did last year. Like it did feel at times, and the Mets obviously had their success against them, and that's a lot of what I am talking about when I'm talking about going through their lineup. But last year, you went through that lineup again. You got past Aaron Judge, and you were like, "Phew, all right, like these next 5 are going to not be too tough." And especially with Stanton being down last year, you don't have Stanton there right now. But there is, again, that's a really well way put. It's more respectable this year. It's more lengthy, and you have to keep bringing your best stuff through the lineup. And if not, they're going to make it tough on you. And they keep trying out their different lineups. They got Goldie up at the front. I mean, if that isn't 2025 baseball, I don't know what is. You have a 37-year-old leadoff, and it doesn't even matter. Like no one bats an eye because of how much different we view the game and how much different those spots mean. And I kind of like the lineup the way it looks. It hasn't had to feel, even though Judge is still unbelievable and he's still doing it, it doesn't feel like it's Judge or bust. And I think that was a little bit of a fear coming into the year. And I get it. They're down. They lost 2 games in a row. Who cares? It's 162 games.
They're 6-4. They're
just
solid.
like you said. Would they hit like 12 home runs in a 2-game stretch? They're not going to hit 12 home runs every 2 games. They're also not going to hit 0 home runs every 2 games either.
Right. Here's a stat for you, Cody. So I just mentioned the Mets have 8 home runs on the entire season. If you take out the top 4 Yankees home runs hitters so far this year, the Yankees still have 8 home runs on the season.
Well, you know what?
It's nuts.
And I don't care, Pete. I don't care if they cut off the top of the bat, stick a newspaper, a bouncy ball, put a rubber band in there, duct tape it back up. I don't care what they do to the bats. The hitters could use an advantage, to be honest. And I'm talking all of MLB. So
across the league,
as far as I'm concerned, like it's a good thing. Maybe you don't need to juice the balls. Maybe this is the way. Give them a little extra cushion on that bat. And it's so funny to see the uproar. And I wonder if it was, Houston doing – well, if it was Houston doing it. But maybe if it was Minnesota doing it, would we have heard about it the same way?
Right. It's a totally fair point. And I think the important thing with the bat side of it, too, is, like, you still got to square that thing up, man. Like
just like steroids.
Jazz shit. Yeah, true. I mean, the steroid thing is I don't want to get into that necessarily here, but, like, put those guys in the Hall of Fame 100%. Like, that was more about, like, these guys being able to recover to closer to 100% throughout a 162-game season, right? And being able to sustain their strength and their recovery over that amount of time. That's what steroids was. All those players were always good players. Like, very rarely were one of these steroids guys, like, ass, and then all of a sudden they were good. It was like Luis Gonzalez was an awesome hitter, just didn't have power. Took steroids, had power, okay? Like, he was always a really good hitter. That's the difference. This bat stuff right here, like Jazz Chisholm on those 2 home runs he hit, which really like sparked the conversation about the torpedo bat. Like he squared those things up, man. He smoked them. Like maybe one of them would have been off the wall instead of a home run. He hit them square and solid. Okay. So like, I'm not a guy who's going to sit here and complain about the torpedo bat. If they get a couple feet extra here and there, I'm kind of with you on that front, Cody. Like hitters are at a disadvantage right now in baseball with how amazing these pitchers are spinning the baseball and how well they can place it and how many pitchers are on rosters. It's a different beast right now. Yeah, I like it. Let's see it. Let's see people hit the ball hard often. That's what I want to see in baseball right now. And you're seeing that with the Yankees. If you look at the Yankees really quick and you look through their OPSs, so far this season, they got 1, 2, 3, 4 players, and so early, doesn't really matter. But 4 guys over 1,000 OPS, right? Volpe's at 960. The Mets have 1. Okay. So the Yankees offense obviously has a little bit of outliers with the big home run games and those performances, but they're looking better than expected so far. So don't freak out when they have a down game. They're going to even out to a better spot than I believed before the season started.
Oh yeah. I think it's palpable, the difference in that lineup, like going through and getting to the bottom half of it. And you're like, all right, they still have guys down here. Like we still have to make pitches, and they can wreak havoc down the bottom of the lineup, just like they can when they get back up top. But I do wonder though, and I wonder how Yankees fans feel about the fact that like you've got Carlos Carrasco, Marcus Stroman, some of these guys that are taking the ball every 5th day. And so far it's been okay. It's been fine.
Yeah.
You haven't really felt it yet. But is that going to start to really turn up? Like, is that going to start taxing the bullpen if they can't get through the 3rd inning? Like, I mean, as Mets fans, we know what Carlos Carrasco has looked like for a couple years now, and he's even a couple years removed from that. So that would obviously be my concern for right now, but the bats are covering it up so far.
I think you're worried right now if you're the Yankees, obviously, for the consistency of the bats, but not super worried. You're only worried about starting pitching right now. Their bullpen's going to be good, man. They're good enough. More than good enough is that bullpen. Luke Weaver to Devin Williams should be awesome all year. Some of the guys who've had some bad blow up moments here and there, whatever, they're fine. Tim Hills looked fine. Ottavino being a Yankee is hilarious, by the way.
For what, like 2 days? Didn't he get DFA'd already?
Did he get DFA'd already?
I'm pretty sure he's already been DFA'd.
He's thrown in 3 games.
Yeah, I think he's gone.
And he hasn't given up a run.
Oh.
But maybe he did. I'm actually not sure. I'll look up that in a second. It. But on the starter front, that's your only main concern right now. And you never needed Clark Schmidt and Luis Gil to come back as bad as you did, because Fried's been really good so far. But Rodon's had 2 bad starts out of 3. Will Warren hasn't looked super sharp. Stroman has not been super sharp, and Carrasco has not been super sharp. So that's the only thing that's tough right now. That's it. That's the only worry. But you do have Clark Schmidt and Luis Gil at least hopefully coming back at some point. Schmidt closer than Gil, but you need those 2 guys back in a desperate way.
I'm sorry, but I think the Yankees DFA'd and re-signed Ottavino. I got to find if I'm correct about this, but that can't be right. Look, 3 days ago, they designated him for assignment. And then they're saying today they're re-signing him.
It might have been a call up, call down type of thing, right? If not, I guess designated for assignment's different.
I think they DFA'd him and maybe he cleared waivers and then I don't know. I'm reading 3 days ago from the SNY account that he was designated for assignment. And then I'm seeing today from the Yankees account that he's re-signing with the Yankees.
So he cleared. They must have had to do something for roster sake, and then he cleared, so they get him back.
Something we probably don't understand.
Objectively hilarious, though, as a Mets fan, to see him back on the Yankees. It's just funny.
Oh,
I got a text in the group chat, like, wait, Ottavino's on the Yankees right now? What's going on?
Yeah, you just remember how it felt like when you'd see him coming out of the pen. Oh. I always think of JT Realmuto when he's rolling his eyes because the reliever, like the bigger guys, like running in from center field. You ever remember that video?
Yeah.
He's like standing at home plate. He's like, oh, God. That's how I'd feel whenever Ottavino would come in. And now that's how I feel when Danny Young comes in.
Oh, man. All right. Well, this is good. Cody O'Connor, for all intents and purposes, hour 15.
We did do, you're right. I think we're hit the under.
I think we did. Our over-under's been like 118.5 on the Shen Sportsbook.
First half over?
Yeah, big time. First half over, second half under. Right now we got Houston leading by 6 in the second half. So Cody and I are going to shut off this podcast and tap into that. But hopefully you tapped into today's episode and enjoyed yourself. Heard some Knicks talk. Heard some All-NBA talk, some Mets, some Yankees. That's what we do here on Subway Sports Talk. We talk New York sports, and we throw in the national sports that you love, just like us. So thank you for tuning in. I'll mention this as well. I don't know if I've even been mentioning this on this podcast. T.O. Allen Friends on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. It's on Uptown Sports TV. It's live. It's with my buddies Al Cintron from The Fan and Anthony Gallo from The Fan. You've heard their voices on The Fan for months and months and months now. I might even say years. Go ahead. Me, I produce for both of them all the time. Happy to be on their podcast with them every Thursday at 8. Tons of fun. A lot of Mets talk, a lot of Yankees talk, a lot of Knicks talk. So if you enjoy this show, you'll enjoy that one. So check it out on Thursdays at 8 p.m. As for Cody O'Connor, any last words, my friend?
Quick, it's Masters week. I got my Happy Gilmore hat on, so I'm gonna give you a couple quick ones. Outright winner, easiest bet is Scotty Scheffler, right? Not this time. He hasn't had that year. You feel so stupid when you bet against him, but I'm gonna go Colin Morikawa. You get him at 18-1. He's been up at the top of the leaderboard. He plays the Masters course well. Excellent ball striker, which is what you need to be typically at every major, but it really shows itself at the Masters. So Colin Morikawa at 18-1. You could take him top 5 for plus 280, top 10 for plus 130. So Colin Morikawa is going to be a guy I'll be all over. I'll give you a couple quick long shots. Cam Smith, tough to predict because he's playing at Live, but he's just got the short game that lends itself to the Masters so well. So as long as he can hit the ball well with his irons and his driver, keep it in play, he'll be a part of it. Another excellent ball striker, Corey Connors, is plus 6,000. Cam Smith also plus 6,000. And Will Zalatoris, you might have known him as the caddy from Happy Gilmore, plus 6,500. An excellent ball striker, sort of rounding into form, always injury riddled, but he seems to be healthy. So couple guys to keep an eye on, but Colin Morikawa, I think, is going to be my pick to win the Masters, to hoist the trophy, to wear the green jacket, and take these with a grain of salt because I suck at predicting golf bets before the tournament starts. That's why the odds are so high, though.
As they say in golf, let's do that golf.
Heck, yeah, they always say that, too.
Yeah, they're always saying that. But if you want more picks from Cody O'Connor, follow us on Subway Sports Talk or on Twitter at Subway Sports Talk because Cody will be putting up, I'm sure of it, a random Mets golf parlay on Saturday or something like that. Do you have one guy not to make the cut?
Oh,
that's a fun bet. That's like so.
It's
evil. It's like an evil bet, but it's fun.
It's a hater bet. It's a hater bet.
Hate hard.
I don't get mad at a hater bet. I'm gonna go just take a quick look through. We
just hit the over, by the way.
Do you take any? Do you do any Masters action and any like pools or anything like that?
Guess who I'm betting on? Colin Morikawa, baby.
Yeah, let's go. All right, let me see if I can find a guy close to even and give you something there. Let's see. Cam Young minus 120. He's a guy that has a huge driver. No. That's Cam Smith might win. Yeah, not to be mistaken. Cam Young's still on the PGA Tour. Huge driver. He can smoke the ball, but he could get a little erratic. He doesn't have the greatest short game. He's the type of guy that like you bet on not to make the cut, and you'll see him in the top 5 at the end of the round. But I think – oh, you know what? Here's one. Max Homa, plus 100, has just not been good this year. And he's historically not great at majors. He's got the game, but this year he's been nowhere to be found. So Max Homa at plus 100, a bigger name, a more common name. I'll go Max Homa plus 100, miss the cut. Hater bet. And I like him too.
Let's do that golf, Cody. I should be, weather pending, playing some golf this weekend. So I'm hoping it doesn't rain, but it's supposed to rain. So
I snuck 18 and right before it downpoured on Saturday. It's one of the best feelings ever. Driving home on the Parkway after 18 in torrential downpours, like, yes, we got it in. Time to go sit on the couch and watch sports all day, and boy, did I.
Yeah, Saturday was a fantastic sports day. So
awesome
I know
day.
we were texting about the lovely Saturday sports day that we had. All right, Cody O'Connor, Subway Sports Talk. That's all we got. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on the podcast app, on YouTube, and of course follow us on socials at Subway Sports Talk. That's all we got for Cody O'Connor. I'm Pete Kennedy. Cheers.